Max Verstappen stayed flat through the Bahrain Straight and the energy trace didn't fade. 136 laps, no reliability alarms, no deployment drop-off. And on timing screens, the Delta barely moved, just 1/10 away from the fastest Mercedes-powered McLaren. But the real story wasn't the lap time, it was what happened after lap 10, and lap 11, and lap 12. Because while other cars began tapering their energy output halfway down the straight, the Red Bull didn't. It kept deploying, full length, consecutively. And when Toto Wolff, a man who built the most dominant hybrid engine era in Formula One history, looked at that data, he didn't hedge. He called Red Bull's car and power unit the benchmark. So what did he see in that energy trace that made him say it? The expectation entering testing was simple. Mercedes' high-performance powertrains would lead the field into the new engine cycle. The Brixworth facility had defined the hybrid era beginning in 2014, and with customers in McLaren, Alpine, and Williams, the perception was that Mercedes had scale, infrastructure, and experience on its side. On the first day of official testing in Bahrain, that perception held, briefly. Lando Norris topped the timesheets in a Mercedes-powered McLaren. That alone reinforced the paddock's assumption that the Silver Arrow's engine project was ahead. But then came Verstappen's long run, 136 laps completed by a single driver. Only Williams, across two drivers, logged more at 145 laps combined. No reported issues, no visible lift and coast phases, no abrupt deployment clipping at the end of straights, and crucially, just 1/10 of a second off Norris's benchmark time. That 10th matters, because it tells us the Red Bull wasn't running a conservative mapping program purely for mileage accumulation. It was operating at representative performance levels. But the most significant detail wasn't the lap time, it was the pattern. Energy deployment across 10 consecutive laps remained stable. In the hybrid era, energy management isn't simply about peak deployment, it's about repeatability. Any power unit can overdeploy for one lap. Very few can sustain maximum electrical release without tapering output due to harvesting imbalance. That's what caught attention. And when Toto Wolff was asked about Red Bull's performance, he didn't deflect. "Well, I was hoping they were worse than they are," he admitted. Then came the statement that changed the tone of the paddock. The car, the power unit are the benchmark at the moment. Not competitive, not promising. The benchmark. That is language chosen carefully. Because when the architect of Mercedes' engine dominance says a rival unit sets the benchmark, he is not speculating. He is reading data. And what he read wasn't just speed, it was control. But what exactly in that control, in the numbers beneath the surface, suggests Red Bull may have solved something others haven't? To understand Wolff's reaction, you have to focus on one sentence. They are able to deploy far more energy on the straights than everybody else. We are speaking a second a lap over consecutive laps. A second per lap in energy deployment difference is not marginal. In Formula One terms, that is structural advantage. Under the 2026 power unit regulations, energy harvesting and deployment play a far larger role than before. The electrical component contributes a significantly increased percentage of total power output. That means energy recovery efficiency, particularly through the MGUK, becomes decisive. What Wolff observed was not a single lap deployment spike. He emphasized 10 consecutive laps. On a single lap, aggressive deployment can mask harvesting inefficiency. But across multiple laps, the battery state of charge must remain stable. If harvesting cannot replenish at the same rate energy is released, deployment duration shrinks lap by lap. What Red Bull showed was stability. Full-length straight deployment, repeatedly. That implies three things. First, highly efficient energy harvesting under braking zones. Second, optimal integration between internal combustion output and hybrid systems. Third, calibration confidence, meaning the software controlling deployment cycles is refined, not experimental. In Bahrain, long straights demand sustained energy release. Many teams are forced into early clipping, meaning electrical power tapers before the braking zone, requiring either lift and coast or reliance on pure combustion. Wolff suggested Red Bull was not tapering. They are able to deploy far more energy over consecutive laps. That means their energy recovery rate matched or exceeded deployment rate. And if that advantage is truly worth a second per lap, even if exaggerated slightly in the phrasing, it signals something larger. It signals systems maturity. Remember, this is Red Bull Powertrains' first ever Formula One engine project, established less than 5 years ago, built from scratch in Milton Keynes, led by Ben Hodgkinson after departing Mercedes. Yet in its first track appearance during homologation submission phase, it appears to have energy balance optimized. That is not accidental. It suggests that Red Bull didn't just build an engine, they built a philosophy. But philosophy always carries risk, especially when facing manufacturers like Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, and Audi. So, how did a brand new power unit project reach benchmark status against companies with decades of engine heritage? Red Bull Powertrains was not born from luxury, it was born from necessity. When Honda announced its withdrawal from Formula One, Red Bull faced a strategic crossroads: continue as a customer team, or control its own destiny. Christian Horner pushed for control. The project began nearly half a decade ago. Facilities were constructed in Milton Keynes. Talent was recruited aggressively, including Ben Hodgkinson, formerly of Mercedes high-performance powertrains. That hire alone signaled ambition, because Hodgkinson was not a mid-level acquisition. He was deeply embedded in Mercedes's hybrid success. Over 4 years, RBPT developed 6 iterations of its power unit architecture on test benches before the homologation-bound specification reached track readiness. 6 iterations. That matters. It suggests iterative refinement rather than rushed deployment. The first on-track shakedown in Bahrain ran over 100 laps without issue. Reliability in a debut run is rare, especially under new regulation pressure. And then came Barcelona, where the unit was integrated into the RB22 chassis under Laurent Mekies' oversight after Horner's departure from his operational roles months earlier. Despite leadership transition, momentum held. That continuity suggests the project was structurally sound, not personality dependent. Ford's technical partnership further accelerated development. The American automotive giant provided simulation and hybrid expertise, expanding Red Bull's engineering bandwidth. Against Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, and Audi, all established automotive manufacturers, Red Bull entered as the only constructor building its first ever Formula One engine. And yet in testing, Wolff labeled it benchmark. That is more than respect. It is acknowledgement that the Milton Keynes project did not simply aim for parity, it targeted innovation. But innovation in Formula One is rarely just mechanical, it is philosophical. And Red Bull's philosophy appears centered on one differentiator: energy intelligence. So how does that philosophy contrast with Mercedes' approach? Verstappen completing 136 laps alone is not just a mileage statistic, it is data confidence. Drivers feel instability before engineers measure it. Lift and coast patterns, inconsistent throttle response, deployment clipping. These are sensations before they become telemetry notes. The absence of reported issues across 136 laps suggests the RBPT unit is not temperamental. And when Wolff added, obviously if you have Max in the car that combination is strong, he acknowledged something crucial. Even a marginal technical advantage becomes amplified by Verstappen's precision. If Red Bull's energy deployment allows even 0.2 per straight advantage, Verstappen will extract the full theoretical gain. Across Bahrain's layout, that could translate to several tenths per lap. And across a season, that compounds into points. Psychology matters too. When a rival team principal publicly calls your package the benchmark, it sends a message through the paddock. Confidence rises in one garage, pressure rises in another. Energy deployment may win straights, but belief wins development cycles, and belief right now appears to be tilting toward Milton Keynes. Yet testing is not racing. Deployment stability in February does not guarantee race day dominance in March. So is this sustainable advantage or an early cycle anomaly? Wolff referenced a second a lap over consecutive laps. Even if that number represents cumulative deployment effect rather than net lap delta, the implication is massive. A 1 second per lap race pace advantage over a 20-lap stint equals 20 seconds. 20 seconds is often the gap between first and fifth in tightly contested races. In points terms, a win yields 25 points. second yields 18. That is a 7-point swing per race. Across 10 races, that is 70 points. Now consider that Red Bull's advantage may not be a full second in race trim, but even 3/10 per lap across key circuits compounds. If energy deployment remains superior at high harvesting tracks like Bahrain, Jeddah, and Baku, Red Bull could dominate on layouts where straight-line efficiency defines overtaking potential. And if rivals cannot match sustained deployment, DRS zones become less effective against them. Energy superiority equals defensive capability, which equals track position security, which equals championship leverage. And championships are not lost by tenths. They are lost by compounded tenths. But testing narratives can mislead. Fuel loads vary, engine modes differ, development curves accelerate. So what makes Wolff's statement more credible than preseason posturing? Team principals rarely hand psychological advantage to competitors, especially not Toto Wolff. His phrasing was deliberate. As of today, they've done a day to set the benchmark. He included the caveat, as of today, but he repeated the claim when pressed. At the moment, I would say so very much. That doubling down removes ambiguity. This was not deflection, it was assessment. Why would he say it publicly? Two possibilities grounded in F1 politics. First, genuine respect for observable data. Second, subtle pressure on his own engineering department. Publicly acknowledging deficit can catalyze internal urgency. But even if strategic, it confirms something. Mercedes sees something measurable in Red Bull's traces. And energy deployment is not easily hidden in modern telemetry comparisons. GPS overlays reveal throttle application. Speed traps reveal mid-straight tapering. Sector splits reveal exit acceleration. If Red Bull is sustaining deployment longer, the data is undeniable. And once undeniable data exists, the development race shifts. Teams will reallocate simulation time, re-examine harvesting maps, adjust cooling tolerances. Because in a regulation cycle emphasizing hybrid contribution, energy is currency. Right now, according to Wolff, Red Bull holds more of it. But Formula One history teaches us something crucial. Benchmarks in February are targets in March. So the final question becomes, is Red Bull's first ever engine a generational leap or simply the first move in a much longer response cycle?